Good morning, grade 10s. Come on into Blackboard, you guys. Give me those green check marks just so I know that you are awake and with me this morning and ready to get started. It was a super stressful night for me last night, you guys, with the election and all. So I don't know if any of you guys watched the live coverage. I don't know if it even interests you. But considering that this is what we were talking about, I was hoping that you guys would have maybe had a little bit of interest. So come on, good. It looks like everybody's in today. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Good, Kyla. Excellent. At least you're getting your information third party. That's good. So ladies and gentlemen, before we get started today though, I'm just trying to think, I don't think we have any big announcements in relation to the program or what's coming up. So again, I would just reiterate, you guys make sure you're checking your grades. Okay, I've still got a couple of assignments to mark to update, and I'm hoping to do that by the end of the week. And then we should be good to go, all right? But just every day, you guys be checking that landing page, that home page, for sure. And just so you know, because I know we've posted up the dates and stuff too of our finals, okay? So make sure you keep that in the back of your mind as you're planning in the next couple of weeks, all right? So nothing too strenuous in the announcements page, but today, you guys, what we're going to focus on is the rights and responsibilities in a democracy, which is fantastic because it ties in so well with the election last night. All right. So like every time, you guys, we're going to do the exact same structure that we always do, right? I've got an introduction for you guys to get your brain activated. We've got a quick little rally robin. We got acquiring the knowledge. We have a video that I want you guys to watch, and then we'll be going through a quick little, some PowerPoint notes and stuff. And then I've got your actual assignment today, which is based on a critical thinking activity and talking about responsibility in regards through the lens of voting. Okay, and then I've got your assessment, and we'll do a reflection. So I'm hoping today, you guys, to actually give you lots and lots of work time. So hopefully my actual lesson will only be about an hour, and then you'll have lots and lots of work time to work on the assignment that I'm gonna give you guys today, or your mini project. Okay, so here's your learning targets for today for this lesson. Number one is that you can assess the responsibility that come along with rights and freedoms in Canada. Number two, that you can reflect on past injustices with respect to voting rights. And number three, that you can determine appropriate ways to support and celebrate universal suffrage. Okay, so those are our three learning targets that by the end of the day, you should have a good grasp of. All right, so I want to start really broad today within our topic. So I really want to think about, because last day we talked about the role of government and what democracy really was. And now we're going to talk about how citizens play into that, our rights and responsibilities in regards to our government, okay? So in a rally robin with a partner, okay, remember rally robin is just going back and forth, right, between you and your partner. I want you to list all the rights that we have as citizens of BC, and I guess as a bigger component of that, because BC is part of Canada, you can even look at it from a Canadian perspective as well. What are all the rights that we have as citizens? Okay, so let's take 2 minutes, and like I said, I just want to rally robin back and forth. We're going to take 2 minutes and list all of our rights that we have as citizens. So really quickly, you guys, let's, I'm going to clear the poll here, and then I'd like you guys to raise your hands, please. Just in Blackboard, raise your hands, you guys, just so we get a good mix. All right, here we go. Jenna, Madison, do you guys want to raise your hands, please? Thank you. Awesome. All right, here we go. So Jesse and Leeds, you guys are going to be partners. Kyla and Connor. Costin and Josh B, Madison and Jenna. Okay, you guys can partner up. And then Eric, if you want to chat with me, feel free. So just in a rally robin, you guys, for 2 minutes, what are our rights here in BC and on a larger context, Canada, as citizens of this country? All right, so go ahead and get started, you guys. 2 minutes. Good, excellent. Now what I want you guys to do, you guys came up with actually really good lists, okay? So now what I want you guys to do is let's actually put that into the room chat to see where that was, what you guys all thought about. So just in the room chat, you guys, let's take 30 seconds. If everyone can put in at least one thing that we have a right to here in BC or Canada, okay? So let's start creating that list. Bring that chat over a bit so you guys can actually see it. There we go. Perfect. Right, we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, good, access to clean water. Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. We have the right to the internet. Yep. Freedom of expression, good leads. Good, yep. Right to have an education, absolutely. Good, you guys. What else? Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to add in there as well? Thank you. Oh, Kyla, that is exactly what I was going to try to just pull out of you guys, but that was easy. Excellent. Yes, healthcare. We have the right to healthcare. A lot of countries don't have that, right? Excellent. Good. So now we've got this broad arching list, right? Yes, cousin, we do. So I'm just going to head back to my PowerPoint here, you guys, because now I've got... So then what the question then becomes, you guys, when we are discussing our rights and our freedoms, but what's the difference then between an expectation and a right? Let's go back to our partners. Let's go back to our partners and actually discuss that, because I think that might be something that might take a little bit to really deconstruct. So what is the difference between a right and an expectation? Okay, so can we just take another, say, 2 minutes with your partners, you guys, same partners, and discuss that prompt just for 2 minutes, all right? Go ahead and get started. Good, you guys. You actually came up with some really great things. So just take one little aspect of your conversation that you had with your partner, and then let's post that into the room, because you guys actually made some really good distinctions between what is a right and an expectation. And I actually want to comment on some of, and I'm hoping that you guys will post it, so that you guys can see what everyone was thinking. Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right, Kyla. Yeah, absolutely. We do have the right to vote, right? That is a right, but it doesn't mean that we're expected to, okay? I mean, we all hope that we would, but we don't have to, right? Yes. Good. Madison, that's a great comparison as well. Okay. Now, here's my question to you guys, too, those of you that are answering. Yeah. For sure, Jenna. Absolutely. I actually really agree with that. Yeah. Because expectations are on a sliding scale, right? When it comes to people's opinions, it can vary. Who or what is, and I think it was Josh B that brought it up in his conversation, and I thought, oh, excellent. Our rights are protected. And I hope that you guys know that, right? We have these rights because they're protected. By what, why, or what are they protected? How are they protected? Okay, good. Kyla, we're getting closer. Do you know what there's actually a document. Do we know what it's? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that. Because you're right, Kyla, it is the law, but there is actually a document that is based on our rights. No. Oh, maybe Connor. Where does the wording of our rights of religion, our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, where does all that wording come from? That's okay, Connor. Yes, Kyla, virtual high five. Good. Yes, the Constitution, right? Okay, so with that in mind, because that is where I was leading up to you guys, I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint to just remind myself where we're at. Okay, so you guys really do have a clear understanding now of that difference between what a right is, that is our legal protection, you know, that we have those rights. But then there's also that expectation, right? That expectation that we're going to follow those rights or use those rights to our advantage as well, right? So what I want to do is I want to take 4 minutes, okay? Because this video is just over 3 minutes. So let's take 4 minutes. I'll put 4 minutes on the timer. Once you're done watching the video and it's in that next assignment, you guys, okay? Once you're done watching it, give me a green check mark in Blackboard, and then we'll go over our next little part of our presentation. All right, so take 4 minutes. It's gonna give you a background on the right to voting, okay? So go ahead and watch that, you guys. Good. All right. Just a reminder, you guys, give me a green check mark in Blackboard once you have finished watching that video. Okay. So that was a really great, quick little overview, right, of what I want you guys to know. So what then is responsibility? Okay. What are some examples of responsibilities that you guys have? Just think of your daily life. What are some responsibilities that you have? Let's type that into the room chat. Okay. What are some daily responsibilities that you guys have? Good, absolutely. Okay, Jenna went big right away, right? Yes, absolutely. You have the responsibility to follow the law. Yes. Madison, excellent. Cleaning up after yourself, right? Doing the dishes, cleaning, right? Awesome. Volunteering at the farm, absolutely, Kyla, right? Those are your responsibilities. They're expected of you, right? I have the expectation of my daughters at home of exactly those same things. I expect them to brush their teeth. I expect them to brush their hair. I expect them to make their beds all before they go to school, right? All those things, yes. And those are all their responsibility. I don't do it for them, okay? Those are things that you are responsible for. Do you think responsibilities change as you get older? So think about where you are in your own lives. These are your responsibilities, right? So now think about your parents, or think about me, right? What kind of responsibilities now do I have, or your parents have, that are different from you? Yeah, good one, Madison. Yes, absolutely. I have to look after my kids. I have to pay the bills. Yes. I have to feed my kids. That's right, Leeds. Yes. Yeah, I have to work. Absolutely. I mean, I guess I don't have to, right, Kyla? But it is expected of me. It is my responsibility to, make money and take care of my family. And absolutely, Jenna, thank you for tying in today's lesson. Absolutely. I have the responsibility to vote, right? And not just me, everybody who is the legal age to vote, right? We have that responsibility. Good. So here we go. Here are our responsibilities when we're talking about that lens of government and democracy, okay? Now remember, we're not talking about a different type of government. We are talking about a democracy like we live here in Canada, okay? A responsibility is a duty or an obligation. That's actually the dictionary definition, right? It is the responsibility of all Canadians to respect and abide by the rules set out by the Constitution, which we already talked about, right? In order to benefit you guys from or for your protected rights, okay? So those rights that you guys all talked about, right? Your freedom of religion, your freedom of speech, all those different things. The right to vote comes with the responsibility to cast a ballot and to make an informed decision, okay? The right to vote. And I think this is one that is really overlooked, okay? It's not brought up as much about as freedom to speech and all of those things, right? This is huge. Because the provincial election just happened last night, right? It all was tallied up and it's in. And I had to look up what the voter turnout was because it was a nail biter last night. I'll be honest, you guys, I actually couldn't even watch the ending. It was getting too late for me. It was too close and I had to go to bed. So I had to catch up this morning when I woke up on what happened, right? But voter turnout, so I ended up looking it up today. So it'll be interesting to see as we go through some of these stats where our provincial election today in 2017 falls in some of these stats, okay? So voter turnout is the percentage of the eligible voters who cast a ballot during the election. So the amount out of the percentage of the population that actually went out and voted, okay? Voter turnout across Canada has declined since the late 80s, early 90s. All right. And young voters are less likely to vote than older voters. And when we're talking about young voters, we're usually looking at 25 and under, right? Maybe even 30 and under. And in 2013, British Columbia provincial election, 55% of eligible voters cast a ballot. So there we go. So in 2013, because remember in a provincial election, we vote every 4 years. So 2013 was the last vote that we did, and we just did one last night. Does anybody know what the voter turnout was for yesterday? If it was 55% in 2013, did anybody know? You all have access to Google. Somebody quickly Google it. I already know, I Googled it this morning. Yes, Christy Clark is still our premier, Kyla, but it's very, very interesting because she did not reach a majority government. Okay? It's a very interesting thing that a development that happened in our provincial election last night. She is only forming a minority government. Okay? So they hold they hold more seats in the legislation, but not enough to get the majority vote when they are voting through legislation. So it'll be very interesting to see what she will need to do, what the Liberal government is going to need to do is actually work with either the NDP or with the Green Party to actually work together to get legislation passed through. So it's going to be very, very difficult because she doesn't hold the majority of seats anymore. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the next 4 years and how it all plays out. Okay. So if you don't know, I looked up the voter turnout this morning, you guys. It was only 57% of eligible voters. So only 2% more of the population cast a ballot. That's very low. That's like just over half of the eligible population, right? So it really begs to differ. Good, Jesse. Good. It really begs to differ though, like asking that question, like why? Why aren't people voting? Why aren't we getting 100% when it is our right to vote? And it really is our responsibility to vote, right? Asking those big questions of why. Why aren't people voting? Why aren't more people voting? So here we go. You can see that now in this graph, right? You guys, when we look and we can see that decline, okay, in the voter turnout. So it's really interesting though to take a look at this, right? So in the early 80s, right? Now we're looking at over 70%. Like that is high, right? And now you can see it's been on a slow decline, right? As the years go down, there's been spikes. So what do you think would cause those spikes? You know, when you look at, they're not even that big of spikes though when really you look at it, right? If you look at between, you know, 01 and 05, it's 8%, right? They're not a huge spike. Maybe in 09, there was a bit more of a spike, right? Okay, so it's interesting. So probably during those years, there are critical, I'm blanking on the word that I'm looking for, you guys. Critical issues that are being discussed, right? Okay, that are getting voters to turn out more, right? Obviously something's maybe happened in the economy, or, you know, there's just something that's really pressured people to go out and vote and have a voice, okay? So Costin, since you put that up there, I'm gonna throw that back to you and why. All right? And that'll be our first, because now I'm gonna show you guys, now we're gonna talk about some questions here. but I want to hear your reasoning, Costin. Absolutely, Kyla. Absolutely. That's why it's so important to understand this sort of stuff, okay? Okay, so Costin, okay? I feel like that is a great segue into my first question, okay? So my first question is to you guys. Why do you think fewer people are voting right now in the present day? Okay, and I think Costin really hits it on the head. Okay, and even Kyla, you do too, right? Number one, it could be confusing. People just don't understand, right? Number two, Costin, I think this is huge, right? They don't feel their vote matters. It's just one vote, doesn't matter, right? And number three, Costin, again, and I think that is why the youth population, right, doesn't come out, is because they don't really care. Yeah, absolutely. And Leeds, is he eligible to vote? I'm assuming he's over 18. Yeah, right? And don't get me wrong, you guys, I probably didn't start voting till I was in my 20s as well, right? There was probably a time when I didn't care either. I was worried. I was more into my own life, right? I could care less. But as time goes on, remember we talked about how your responsibilities change as you get older, right? That's what happens as well. You start becoming more aware of what's happening in the province, and it actually starts, and in Canada, and it actually starts affecting you even more. But I want to stress this, you guys, because, education is something that you guys are so entrenched in right now, right? You guys are part of the school system. And that's a provincially funded institution, right? That is a provincial matter. You should care about what platform each of those parties were talking about when it came to education. Okay, that's something that you really should think about. Okay, and I know you guys aren't old enough to vote yet, but when you do, right, now you're getting into post-secondary, into that kind of platform, right? You're gonna have a job, you're gonna start paying taxes, right? You're gonna start driving, you're gonna start complaining about how much the roads have potholes and all of that, right? Even though that's a local issue. But again, you can vote in your local, in your civic elections, okay? Those are huge issues that you guys will start paying attention to as time goes on. So I'm hoping I'm building the base for you guys, right? So here's my next question, and I will get around to these questions, but I just thought of this, right? One of the biggest things too that, that is debated all the time is, should we lower the voting age? Because right now it's 18, right? What if we lowered it to, it's been debated to lower it to 16? Because if 16-year-olds are responsible enough to drive a car, aren't they responsible enough to vote and have a voice? What do you guys think about that? Because you're closer to 16. Would you, if you were allowed to vote at 16, would that change your mind, Costin? Or the rest of you, would you guys vote at 16? Still no. Yeah. So why not 16 then, Kyla? If you would vote at 18, why not 16? What's the difference there? Good, maturity level. Yep, and that's part of the big debate, right? Is now, are they really that mature, right? Absolutely, for sure, you guys. Okay, excellent. So I think we may have hit on a few reasons on that first question, right? Why do you think fewer people are voting? I think you guys really did get at the heart of the reason of that. We lack knowledge, right? not even around just the parties or the people that are running, but around the whole process, right? Even around how government works. We feel that our voice doesn't matter, okay? Because, if you voted and, your party didn't get in, or the person who you voted for didn't get in, throw your hands up in the air, right? But this is what I've come to learn over time, right? Is that if you don't exercise your responsibility to vote, then you really don't have a right to complain. Okay, so if then something happens within, government makes a decision that you don't like, honestly, you don't get to complain because you didn't exercise your right to vote. Okay, that's just my feeling. Now, let's move on here though, because we really do have to place this into a historical context as well, right? Because in the past, a lot of groups were segregated and a lot of groups were not allowed to vote, right? Remember, it wasn't until the 1960s even that, women were not allowed to vote. We didn't get the right to vote until the 1960s. So you got to think about that. And that isn't really that long ago, okay? So my question to you, and again, let's just go back to your partners, you guys, and let's just take 2 minutes and let's focus on this question. Do you think it's disrespectful to those who fought for the right to vote? Okay, think about women weren't allowed to vote, right? First Nations people were not allowed to vote. Black people were not allowed to vote. There were a lot of segregated people that were not allowed to vote, okay? And over the years, the suffrage movement has fought long and hard. Now we have the universal right to vote, okay? Do you think it's disrespectful to those people in the past who fought for that right if you don't exercise your right to vote? Let's take 2 minutes, discuss with your partner what you think. Go ahead. Good. I saw some good discussion there. Just focus on the disrespect question, though, right? You guys don't go to get into the next one. We'll discuss that in a second. But let's actually talk about this concept of being disrespectful. Okay. So, just in the room chat again, just type in maybe one comment that you and your partner discussed. Right? Is it disrespectful for those who fought for that right? Yeah. So Jenna, what do you mean by it's a waste? Can you expand on that for me? Good. So I'm glad you brought that up, Leeds, because I know you were saying it's you kind of didn't like the word disrespectful. It's more disappointing, right? So maybe in that word choice around the question. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying now, Jenna. Good. Yes, it is. It is like a waste, right? And yeah, so it depends on what you're kind of looking at, whether you think it's disappointing or you feel it's disrespectful. At the same time, it does almost feel like a waste, right? And it is our, as a citizen, it is our responsibility to vote and to use that to our advantage, right? To have those people elected into those positions, okay? So I think a lot of people still come up with, a lot of those excuses, right? And I do look at them as excuses, that, I just, a lot of people too will say, I just can't get there. I don't have the time. I don't know who to vote for. It's all so confusing. Well, do your research. It's your responsibility. This is part of being an informed, active citizen, okay? So let me head back to my PowerPoint here to remind me. And again, here's the next one, you guys. And I know some of you already went into this, should it be mandatory? Should voting be mandatory? And I think even I want to expand on that. So should you have to vote? So once you turn 18, you have to vote. And what would that look like? Okay, let's just take 2 minutes and discuss with a partner again, okay? Because, we can say yes, for sure, we could say yes. But what would that look like? How do we make people vote? So go ahead and discuss that for 2 minutes, you guys. Good, you guys. Awesome. I loved that conversation. First of all, number one, I actually learned something new because Jesse, I hope you don't mind me sharing. I didn't know they did that in Sweden. That's amazing because I was just reading what you wrote and I was like, wow, we should do that. That would create more accessibility on voting day. So if you guys, Jesse's, I hope you don't mind me sharing, Jesse. Maybe Jesse, you write it into the room chat, what you said, because I thought that was a fabulous thing. And I didn't realize. And I'll just post it up here, you guys. Yeah, so talking about making it a holiday, right? So then that way, no one really has an excuse like, oh, I have to work that day, it'll take too long, right? And that way they have to go, well, they don't have to again, but at least it would give them easier accessibility to go to the polls to vote, right? Because they didn't have to work that day. And you were saying too, Jesse, that's what Sweden does. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that. And it's interesting, as you guys were chatting too, Mr. Russ and I were chatting, and we kind of thought, you know, Kyla made a really good point in her conversation with Connor as well, that really if you made voting mandatory, right, it's kind of taking away the right to vote then, right? It's kind of that dichotomy. It doesn't really make sense, right? So it's interesting to see that you guys, we were all kind of on that same page. So yeah, as soon as you make something mandatory, then you're kind of taking away that freedom and that right. So really, I don't think this would actually ever occur. I don't see how it could be feasible, just because making something that huge mandatory would, I think it would create a real backlash as well, right? So then that leads to, though, are there legitimate reasons to not vote? Because to me, some of the reasons that you guys brought up, right, are those really legitimate reasons not to vote? Let's take 2 minutes and discuss with our partner on that. Okay. Yes. Good, you guys. So it seems like you guys kind of are on the same page around this, that really there are no legitimate reasons. And Jesse, it was funny. I was reading your comment there about giving birth, really. If you were like giving birth, then I guess that's okay, right? Like if you're in the hospital. But at the same time, you guys, there's advanced polling, right? You don't actually just have to vote on voting day, right? I didn't vote yesterday. I voted last week. Right? Just because I planned ahead and looked at my schedule, I knew I couldn't vote yesterday. So I voted the week before. So unless it's like, surprise, baby, right? There are other options as well. And Jen, I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. There is so much access. So, Kaylin, provincial election, that's what we're talking about, right? So, good, you guys. So, now let's get into what we're actually going to do today. All right? So what I have for you, I kind of have almost like a 2-tiered assignment for you guys today, all right? So there's kind of like a part 1 and a part 2. So numbers 1, 2, and 3 are part 1, and then part 4, or numbers 4 and 5 are kind of part 2, okay? So in number 1, what I have for you is a little document around the history of voting rights in BC. If you click in the assignment, you'll see a PDF pop up on your screen, and that's the history of voting rights in BC. It's only 1 page long, okay? What I want you to do is read through that. This is where those critical thinking skills are going to come in. We've done this before with the World War II, the events in World War II, so we're revisiting that skill again, okay? So from your perspective, I want you to choose 10 events that you think are the most important, okay? From those 10 events then, what I want you to do is then rank them from 1 to 10. What is the most important event, okay, that happened is going to be your number 1. Then in your top 3, I want you to give your reasoning why those top 3 are your most significant events, okay? So I just want to do tier 1 of the assignment first. So I want you to go in, do your, peruse that document, choose your top 10, rank your top 10, give your reasons why for the top 3 of your ranking, okay? So you're going to do this in the online text box in the assignment, okay? So in the online text box, I want your rankings from 1 to 10. And then for your top 3, I want your reasonings, okay? You can do that in your online text box. So let's take half an hour here, you guys. Half an hour, 40 minutes. Maybe we'll reconvene at 10:30, and then I'll introduce you to your next half of the assignment. All right. So I think at this point though, ladies and gentlemen, we can say goodbye on the live classroom. Okay. We can just go down to Blackboard. All right. So give me 10 minutes to go back to my class or go back to my office and get set up again, you guys. But that should give you a good chunk of time to get you started on the first part of your applying the knowledge. All right. So save your questions till I get back to the office if you have any. All right. Okay. Bye, guys.